Hola, hola. Today we are going to start with understanding how to use subjuntivo, how to use it in context, not just how to conjugate. Okay. We are going to take notes using these slides and the same notes document you used before. This is what it looks like, el subjuntivo, formando el subjuntivo. We're going to go to page 3, página 3, con los paraguas. Paraguas, these are umbrellas. These umbrellas in Roman numeral 5 moods match with the apuntes here. Okay? Bueno. So, unfortunately, I'm about to reveal a secret to you that perhaps you never knew existed. Most likely did not. While you have been working in Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 and already through Spanish 3 with tenses, what I want you to know now is that the language of Spanish is actually broken up into moods, not tenses. Tenses are just subcategories, okay? Just the smaller parts. But there are 3 moods in Spanish: indicativo, indicative; subjuntivo, subjunctive; imperativo, imperative. Indicativo, subjuntivo, imperativo. Indicativo, or indicative, indicates facts, experienced reality, or certainty. Things that are true and real. You have concrete evidence of them. Within the indicative mood, we have tenses like the present tense, the preterite, imperfect. You can see the rest. Some examples of how to conjugate the verb hablar in all of those tenses that live under the umbrella of the indicative mood, indicativo. Imperativo is what we ended first semester with, giving people commands. This is the only quote unquote tense that exists in the imperative mood. They can be affirmative, they can be negative, they can have a pronoun, they cannot. Commands in general make up the imperative mood. The third and final mood in the Spanish language is subjuntivo subjunctive. Subjuntivo describes an action that is not a fact. So to contrast it with indicativo, subjuntivo conveys uncertainty. Subjuntivo conveys uncertainty or information that is colored by emotion or personal opinion. If you think about it this way, your indicativo is like your brain, right? Facts, information. Subjuntivo is like your heart. When you're expressing things from the heart, when you're expressing emotion, things that are really, really personal to you, you're going to speak from the heart, right? So in Spanish, not only do we change our tone of voice or change the way we say things, but now we even have to change the conjugation of the verb. Here are just some examples of how each of the moods play out in English. But I want to warn you right now that there is no true equivalent to the way we use subjuntivo in Spanish in English. Our use of subjunctive in English is far less valued, far less important, far less detailed. I am going to use these shapes: a blue rectangle, a green circle, a red circle, and a yellow rectangle. You're going to see these shapes over and over and over and over again. Okay, I'm using these shapes to help us dissect our sentences, to help us identify parts of speech. So you will see the shapes, you will use the shapes and the colors, you will love them because they are going to help you dissect each and every sentence and therefore help you to be more successful with using subjuntivo. Okay, in the blue rectangle or the blue box, the first part, we have what's called our main clause. Okay, in the main clause of your sentence, you are going to use a verb in the indicative. You have the structure here of a sentence that uses 2 moods in one sentence. I know. Surprising, isn't it? Shocking. For now, we will use the present tense indicative, or what we call the present indicative, in our main clause. We will separate our main clause and our dependent clause by the word que, which in some cases will have a translation of the word that, sometimes, not always. And then we will continue our sentence using that dependent clause with the conjugation of the verb in the subjunctive. Here, in the red bubble, you will use your yo drop swap. Here, in the main clause, you will simply use present tense regular. The differences, the most important difference, I guess I should say, is in the yellow bubble, your main clause and your dependent clause must always have two different subjects. And if they don't, they break the rules of subjuntivo, okay? And we'll get to that much later. But the main clause will be the clause, the information that expresses the doubt, opinion, uncertainty, those heartfelt emotions. You're going to talk about them here, and then that influences what you do in the dependent clause, or that main clause triggers the subjunctive in your dependent clause. Here is an example. Es importante que nosotros escuchemos a la maestra. Es importante, this is my opinion. It's important that we listen, escuchar, AR. Now yo dropped and swapped. Escuchemos a la maestra. Here's my verb in the subjunctive. Es is the verb ser in the present indicative. Two different subjects because here, es importante is an impersonal expression. No one is the subject, and nosotros is the subject of our dependent clause. It's important that we listen to the teacher. These are my feelings. This is my opinion, not necessarily a fact. I mean, could you argue it's a fact? If you don't listen to the teacher, then you get a bad grade, yada, 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 of course. But this is an opinion statement. Another example here. Es necesario que ellos estudien. Now, in all the years that I have ever taught, I have always recommended that my students study. Doesn't mean they will, but I'm going to tell them I think it's important. I think it's necessary. Here are some impersonal expressions. We're going to skip ahead here that you will need to know. There's a Quizlet set to help you memorize them. That previous slide I skipped through, you have access to, but we will get to that a little bit later. Today, I want you simply to understand the formation of the sentences, the purpose and use of the shapes and the colors. These are your impersonal expressions. They are purposefully in a giant blue box because these are your main clauses. Es importante, es bueno o es malo, es urgente, es una lástima, es una buena o mala idea, es una pena, necesario, raro, triste, posible, imposible, imprescindible, sorprendente. Each one of these is an impersonal expression. It doesn't have a subject. These will be used in the main clause of your sentences to start stating your opinions, to start speaking from your heart. Let's take a look at some of these in context. Here we have 3 examples in English. I'd like you to translate them into Spanish. You can see the answers are already popping up. Es bueno que nosotros mejoremos, using the verb mejorar, swapped ending. Es necesario que ellos curan. Es urgente que ella no se contagie. Contagiarse with a G-I-A, now swapped. Okay, so you have your opinion. It's good, it's necessary, it's urgent, followed by a que, then your new subject and the verb in the subjunctive. You have indicative mood and subjunctive mood all in the same sentence. It's going to take us a while to get used to it. I'm going to skip through here. You can feel free to go through these, but I want to finalize our lesson today, having us analyze again the shapes, our sentence dissection. Main clause includes a verb in the indicative. For now, we'll keep it in the present indicative. We're going to separate our main clause from the dependent clause with the word que, sometimes translates to that. And then we'll have our dependent clause with a new and different subject in order to trigger the subjunctive or the use of the subjunctive in the dependent clause. Okay, so that's the order of every sentence. It's like a formula. You will plug something new here into the blue box, and you will spit out something in the subjunctive, yo, drop, swap, every single time. Okay, do not deviate from this pattern. Do not deviate from this formula. It'll be, this will help us stay on track. Main clause, we're going to put new stuff in here all the time. For now, we have impersonal expressions. And what you're going to have in your dependent clause is going to be subjunctive, your yo, drop, swap. Okay, so this main clause is going to be our new or newest element